Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring another video for The Walking Dead Season 5. Last night's episode was absolutely great. I did a review on it. If you want to take a look at it, it's on my channel. But what I want to talk about today is about something that they brought up on Talking Dead. I do always watch Talking Dead afterwards because sometimes what I find is it gives me a sort of perspective on things. And they asked something last night that I really thought was something that you really have to think about, and that was, is Tyreese too soft for the zombie apocalypse, for the Walking Dead world? And I believe it was about 68% said yes, he was. And I just want to give my thoughts on that. I want to do a little bit of analysis, deciding for myself, or putting out some ideas on why he may or may not be too soft for the zombie apocalypse. So that's what I'm going to be doing in tonight's episode. It's going to incorporate anything from the time he was introduced up until Strangers, the most recent episode. So if you haven't watched any of that, there will be spoilers. So just in case you haven't, do not watch this video as it will contain spoilers. Okay. So when Tyreese was introduced back in the third season, you could kind of see that he has a lot of qualities of being a very good leader. And over time, you see that he definitely has a lot of great ideas about him, and he also displays a certain type of personality in The Walking Dead that I believe does make him suitable for certain aspects of The Walking Dead. The fact of the matter is when you're in a zombie apocalypse, I feel like you're always going to need certain types of individuals, and you're always going to need to be prepared for different kinds of situations. And I feel like Tyreese is capable of being, a good survivor in various situations. And here's what I mean. When he was leading the small group, I think that it was just, they were on the run, they were surviving. There wasn't really too much moral dilemmas going on at that point, especially because they'd also been surviving in a bunker, which they explained. So they didn't really get a lot of exposure. And then once you get Tyreese getting into Woodbury, he starts to realize, oh, something's going on here, and I'm not liking it. He could tell that the governor wasn't all he was, said he was, and he excused himself from the fighting. He told the governor flat out, and Sasha did too, so he can't, just put this on Tyreese, but they said, we're not fighting, we will defend the town, you can kick us out, but we're not fighting this war. Of course, they were able to go back to the prison. And while we were at the prison, I really feel like Tyreese has stepped up several times. And I compare that to now. You see in season 5 that Tyreese is really more trying to stay back from things. And you saw that in the first episode when he didn't kill that walker with the handcuffs and told Carol that he couldn't. You saw that where he was trying not to kill Martin. He was trying to give Martin every chance on the planet to just shut up, and they could all survive. Tyreese believing that they could have all survived, up to the very next episode when Tyreese stays back to watch baby Judith rather than go out on the mission. And I think that they're starting to see several different qualities about Tyreese that may make him too soft for The Walking Dead. And a big indicator that perhaps may show that is that the guy that he beat up, I think his name was Martin, the guy in the cabin, and he comes out, he goes, no, the guy's dead, don't worry about it, I took care of it, I could. He's alive. He's not dead. And he was outside with the rest of the hunters, with Gareth and them, when they were with Bob. So it's very clear that Tyreese did not kill the guy. Now, when I watched Talking Dead afterwards, Chad L. Coleman, the actor who plays Tyreese, was on the show, and they asked him about that. They were like, whoa, why is Martin alive? And he claims, the actor Mr. Coleman stated that it's as much of a surprise to Tyreese that Martin's alive rather than he wasn't able to follow through. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, because you know that when you're on the show, you can divulge certain things or talk about some of the things that happened before, but if it affects things going forward, then they really can't talk about it. So maybe there is a little more to it. Maybe Tyreese just decided to give him a good beat down, and that was that. Or maybe he really thought, hey, I pummeled this guy pretty bad. I probably caved his skull and he's dead. And it really is a surprise. We don't know. And for all we know, that's just something that we're going to have to figure out later on in the season when we confront that, if we do again. I mean, I'm pretty sure the two will see each other again. I don't know if it'll necessarily be like, I thought you killed that guy. I did. I don't think that they're really going to go into that much depth with it, but I'm definitely interested to see if they bring out more of that in Tyreese. But overall, I don't think that Tyreese is necessarily too soft. He's soft in certain areas, but he's not overall soft. Season 4 really saw him, stepping up a little bit. He went on that mission to the big spot. He was there to, stab the walkers on the fence. He went on the run to the veterinary college. You saw him very involved. And yes, part of that may have been, especially near the end, was his, Karen being killed, who was his girlfriend, that may have just fired him up and gave him a death wish, which is perhaps, is an appropriate response to somebody, dying, especially if they were murdered. What's the first thing you want to do if somebody in your life gets murdered? You want to find the guy that did it or the woman that did it and put one in their head. That's just, an instinct that people feel. I'm not saying whether it's right or not, okay? I'm just saying that deep down within us, most of us, that's our first reaction. So Tyreese having that kind of a reaction, he's basically, he's acting like any normal human would in the same circumstances. But even though it didn't always revolve around that, you still saw him going out and killing walkers. He's able to step up and do it when it's necessary, okay? Especially back in season 4. He wasn't afraid of defending himself or defending the others at all. Even when the governor attacked the prison in Too Far Gone, was Tyreese in the bus with the kids playing patty cake? I don't think so. He was firing a gun at them. He's not afraid to do what needs to be done when the time is right, okay? And that's where I think is a difference between Tyreese and many other characters. And it doesn't necessarily make him totally soft, but it can be a disadvantage. And what I think is Tyreese is the kind of guy who he'll do something if it's the last resort, which is not always a bad thing. And I look at that. I think about if Tyreese would have been down there with Rick talking with the governor, I think he would have been saying the exact same things. That he would have tried to have avoided a fight if possible. And it just wasn't. And I see that. Another thing you also see is, Tyreese was talking to Karen in those couple episodes, about killing walkers. He's like, I don't like killing them through the fence. And I think that all that is Tyreese. It's hard to look somebody in the eye, especially somebody who used to be alive. I mean, we all look at walkers in a different way. Lizzie thought they were, totally awesome, okay? But, looking at a walker, it definitely can become too easy to be like, it's just a walker, Whereas Tyreese, I feel, remembers that these walkers used to be people. And that's important. And I don't think that people should forget that this is a possibility that you might become a walker one day if you get bit or if you die and nobody puts one in your skull. And I think that Tyreese realizes that, which is why it's tough to look a walker in the eye and stab it. It doesn't necessarily make him a softie. I just think that he thinks more about things than other people do. Characters like Rick, Daryl, I mean, yeah, they think, but things change in the course of like their thinking. I mean, I think that Rick, it's like Rick will try something, but if that doesn't work, it's just, hey, we got to do this. I mean, I think that Rick gave Dave and Tony a very decent chance not to do what they did, but I think that Tyreese would have waited even longer if he was in the same position before he would have shot them. Possibly even the same thing if Tyreese would have been put in the situation with Shane or Tomas even. I mean, you don't know, but I think that Tyreese is just more of a thinker and more of a, we need to see if there's something else in this line of action before we do the ultimate bad thing of killing somebody, which is exactly how I think that he thinks. But he's not afraid, and I think that's something that's very important. He's not afraid to defend people. He's not afraid to kill walkers. When push comes to shove, he's going to grab that gun and he's going to fire at the people that are attacking his group. When push comes to shove, he's going to kill those walkers. He's done that several times. We've seen that. But again, I just think that Tyreese is a little more a person who likes to think things through a little more. And in regards to now, right now with him really stepping back, I think that is stemming from what happened with Lizzie and Mika. That's my opinion. Okay. Obviously, being there was definitely a very tough situation for Carol and Tyreese to be in. And I know for a fact that Tyreese, if he would have been alone and there wouldn't have been a Carol, I don't know what Tyreese would have done. I don't know if he would have had the capability of shooting Lizzie. I don't. He may have even tried to still try to normalize her. Try to help her recover, I think. I think because of the fact that Carol was there and made the decision, he was just like, well, Carol's making the decision and I'm just going to watch Judy. And I think that nonetheless, you can tell that events like that definitely are going to leave their impact. And I think that it's left its impact on Tyreese. I think that's part of what's going on here. Because after seeing everything that happened with Lizzie and Mika, I feel like he's not yet ready. He hasn't coped with that yet, and he hasn't, made himself possible to break out of that yet. He kind of wants to look at the good things, and I think, again, that's something that you need in the Walking Dead world, is you need to look at what are the good things I have right now. You saw Bob and Sasha playing that game of, positive thinking. Something negative, you turn it into a positive about the zombie apocalypse. I think that that's what Tyreese sees in Judith. That he sees her as something good, something pure, something that if he attaches himself to that it helps him forget about all the bad things that are going on out there. And he needs to take the time to step back and cope with that. And I think that's why he stayed at the church with Judith rather than go on the supply run, and why he couldn't kill that walker with the handcuffs. But like I said, when push comes to shove, Tyreese is going to do what he's got to do. Tyreese is going to go out there and kill those 3 walkers that were outside the cabin. Tyreese is going to bust through the door and beat Martin to a pulp. Okay? He has the capability of doing that. But again, I think that just in general, Tyreese is always that guy he wants everything else possible first to go passing right by. Okay? It's like if you're trying to diagnose diseases and you want to say it's a cold first before it's something more serious. You know what I'm saying? And I think that Tyreese is the exact same way, where there's a possibility. He tells Martin, he's like, nobody has to die today. He's not wrong. He really isn't. If you get the right kind of circumstances, no, nobody had to die that day. It's right. Yeah, are they a snowball's chance? You better believe it's a snowball's chance. But certain situations, you can cut your losses and go. It's possible to do that, in my opinion. So Tyreese's opinion isn't wrong, and I don't think that it makes him an absolute softie, but the thing about Tyreese is that if Tyreese was the leader, I think that more people would definitely be getting killed on his watch. No offense to Tyreese. But I think that with Rick being in the leading position, and he's able to make that decision quicker than Tyreese, it can save lives. It really can. You know, Rick Rick definitely has a lot more of an ability to follow through with the decision and be okay with it. Whereas I don't think that Tyreese is really capable of being able to make that decision and live with it as well as Rick does. Or he'll wait. Like, if the hunters would show up or something like that, you know, he might have waited and potentially been like, come on, guys, let's just go our separate ways. He might be trying to avoid a fight, depending on the circumstances. Now, not with Bob getting kidnapped. That changes the story. But again, I can just see that Tyreese is looking more towards the future of humanity. He's he's not exactly like Dale and he's not exactly like Herschel, as he definitely has done a few things that go past what Dale and Herschel were, but I still think that Tyreese has the best, one of the best ideas of where he wants to see the world get to. And I think that he wants to see humanity return almost to what it could be. Even then he was like, we don't have to go to Terminus, like in the Grove. He's like, we don't have to go to Terminus. We can all stay at this cabin and live our lives. And that would have been all right with Tyreese. That was something like, rebuilding a little community there. And if people came along, maybe they would invite them in. You don't know, but I just think that Tyreese wants to avoid bloodshed if at all possible. And that doesn't necessarily make him a softie. It just makes him not as good of a leader as Rick would be. Because sometimes you just have to make that decision. Sometimes you have to kill that guy. Sometimes you have to, attack somebody. Sometimes you have to do these things, and you can't just wait until the guy, like Martin's got his neck, he got his hand on Judas' neck prepared to snap. And I think that that's something that Tyreese needs to work on a little bit, and that perhaps he can develop a little bit. And perhaps we will see a little bit more of a tough Tyreese, and maybe we might see exactly what happened with Martin and Tyreese. Did Tyreese actually think Martin was dead, and it was just, hey, he wasn't? Because he was only beating him. It's not like he put a bullet in his head or anything like that. Or did Tyreese just give him a beating because he couldn't make that call to kill Martin, because it's not something that he wanted to do? When he said that nobody had to die, he meant it. So it's really just going to depend on what the future of the story shows, but I don't think that Tyreese is an ultimate softie. He definitely has the ability to be tough. He's shown it. He's proven it. He's earned his spot in the group. He's earned his spot at being a survivor. It's just that he's not leadership material like Rick is. That's where I come down with it. When I look at everything, when I look at the circumstances, I think that he can't make decisions as fast as Rick and be okay with them. And I think that right now he's just going through a really tough time after dealing with Lizzie and Mika, after seeing that whole scene. And Judith is something that keeps him, a little more sane. It's something that he sees Judith as pure, and he needs to take a step back, which is not that much different than what Rick did last season when he took a step back and went to farming. Really, those situations kind of mirror themselves in several ways. So ultimately, no, I don't think Tyreese is a softie, but he has his weaknesses just like everybody else. So those are my thoughts. I'm definitely interested to see how the story progresses next week. They are definitely doing a great job on the pacing, and I'm really enjoying this season so far. Makes me look forward to every Sunday. So thanks everybody for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I have more videos coming. If you want to suggest a video topic, please do so. And don't be afraid to give your input on my video here. I'm not necessarily right. This is an opinion. You guys have opinions as well, and I would certainly love to hear them. So thanks, guys. Have a very wonderful evening. Thank you.